Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Spencer. Sometimes the most revealing moments come from the most unexpected places. What started as a simple work party turned into the discovery that would unravel my entire marriage. The man who tried to provoke me that night had no idea that his attempts to humiliate me would lead to the exposure of his own betrayal and my wife's. Rose and I had been married for several years when this all happened. Our marriage had always been built on mutual understanding and respect for each other's goals and ambitions. Even before we got married, we had both agreed to keep childbirth on hold for a while because Rose was extremely career-oriented and wanted to establish herself professionally before starting a family. I had always been the quiet one in our marriage, preferring to stay home and avoid the social obligations that seemed to energize my wife. Rose was naturally outgoing and enjoyed networking events, office parties, and social gatherings that came with her corporate job. She worked as a senior marketing manager at a multinational firm downtown, and her career was advancing steadily. Over the years, Rose had tried many times to pull me into various social activities like company picnics, holiday parties, networking events, and dinner parties with her colleagues. The invitations were constant, and my responses were consistently polite declines. I simply wasn't comfortable in those environments and preferred to support her career from behind the scenes. My reluctance to attend social events had become something of a running theme in our relationship. Rose would enthusiastically describe upcoming events and try to convince me to join her, while I would find polite ways to decline without dampening her enthusiasm. She seemed to understand my personality and rarely pushed too hard when I explained that I'd rather she go alone. But when Rose's annual work party came around that year, something was different. This wasn't just another networking event or casual office gathering. Rose had been working on a major project for months, and her supervisor had indicated that she would be receiving some form of recognition at the party. Rose pressured me to come in a way she had never done before. She explained that this recognition was important to her and that having me there would mean a lot. She had been working incredibly hard on this project, often staying late at the office and bringing work home on weekends. The recognition represented a significant career milestone for her. I understood how much this meant to Rose, and despite my usual reluctance to attend social events, I agreed to show up. I told her that I would make an exception for this particular party because I wanted to be there to support her during what was clearly an important moment in her career. The preparation for the party was more elaborate than usual. Rose spent considerable time selecting her outfit, getting her hair done, and making sure every detail was perfect. She wanted to look professional and polished for her recognition. I also made an effort to dress appropriately for the occasion, wearing one of my better suits and making sure I looked presentable. On the day of the event, we showed up together at the upscale hotel where the party was being held. The venue was impressive, with elegant decorations and a sophisticated atmosphere that reflected the company's success and Rose's professional environment. Rose looked beautiful and confident, and I was proud to be by her side. As the evening progressed, I found myself mingling with other people more than I typically would at social events. Rose introduced me to her colleagues, and I made polite conversation with various attendees. While I was still outside my comfort zone, I was managing the social interactions reasonably well and focusing on being supportive of Rose's big night. The recognition ceremony went well, and Rose received the acknowledgement she had been working toward. I was genuinely proud of her accomplishments and happy that I had decided to attend the event. Seeing her receive recognition for her hard work made the social discomfort worth it. However, as the night continued, I began to notice something troubling. There was a particular guy at the party who seemed to be paying unusual attention to our interactions. He would appear nearby when Rose and I were talking to other people, and he seemed to be listening to our conversations and chipping in occasionally in a way that felt intrusive. At first, I didn't see his behavior as an attack or anything particularly concerning. Office parties often involve people mingling and overhearing various conversations. But as the evening progressed, his behavior became more obviously targeted and deliberate. This coworker began making comments that seemed designed to provoke me or make me uncomfortable. He would interject himself into conversations I was having with other people, making remarks that were subtly challenging or dismissive. His tone was friendly enough on the surface, but there was an underlying edge that suggested he was trying to get a reaction from me. I would notice that my wife would laugh to mask his statement as playful. The provocative behavior escalated throughout the evening. He would make jokes at my expense, question things I said in front of other people, and generally try to undermine me in social situations. What made it particularly uncomfortable was that he was doing this in front of the people we were with. As his antics became more obvious, I noticed that other people at the party were beginning to pick up on what was happening. Some of Rose's colleagues seemed uncomfortable with his behavior, and there were a few moments when the tension in conversations became palpable. It was clear that his attempts to provoke me were becoming obvious to the people around us. Despite the increasingly uncomfortable situation, I didn't fall for his provocative behavior. I remained calm and composed, refusing to engage with his attempts to bait me into an argument or confrontation. While it was surprising that my wife never said anything to confront him, I understood that losing my temper or responding aggressively would only make the situation worse. My decision to stay calm and not react seemed to frustrate him further. As the evening went on, I maintained my composure throughout the entire event, focusing on supporting Rose and avoiding any behavior that might create drama or embarrassment. After the party ended and we returned home, I couldn't stop thinking about the coworker's behavior. His attempts to provoke me seemed too personal and targeted to be random. There was something about his hostility toward me that felt like it came from a deeper place than simple workplace dynamics or personality conflicts. The more I thought about his behavior and my wife's silence, even when we came home, the more convinced I became that there was something I was missing about the situation. His knowledge of personal details about me, combined with his obvious animosity and my wife's silence, suggested that there might be more to the story than I understood. After several days of thinking about the incident, I made a decision that would change everything. I hired a private investigator to dig into this coworker's background and investigate his relationship with Rose. I needed to understand why he had targeted me so specifically and whether there were aspects of the situation that I wasn't aware of. The decision to hire a private investigator wasn't made lightly. It represented a significant step that suggested I was beginning to suspect something serious about Rose's relationship with this coworker. But his behavior at the party had been so targeted and personal that I felt I needed to understand what was really going on. The investigation took several weeks to complete, and during that time, I tried not to bring up conversations around Rose while privately wrestling with my suspicions. The investigator was thorough and professional, gathering information about the coworker's background, his relationship with Rose, and any evidence of inappropriate behavior. When the investigator finally provided me with the results of his investigation, the information was more devastating than I had imagined. The coworker had indeed been having an affair with my wife. I don't know how the investigator had this much insight, but his investigation uncovered evidence of their relationship that went back months, including recent documentation of meetings outside of work and other proof of their involvement. The details the investigator provided painted a clear picture of deception and betrayal. Rose had been maintaining this relationship while continuing to act as a loving and committed wife at home. The coworker's behavior at the party now made perfect sense. He had been trying to provoke me because he resented my presence in Rose's life. Among the information the investigator provided were details about the coworker's personal life. He was married to a woman named Amy, and they had been together for several years. Learning about his wife added another layer of betrayal to the situation, as he was not only participating in the destruction of my marriage, but also betraying his own wife. Using the results of the investigation, I decided to reach out to Amy and inform her about what I had discovered. I felt she had a right to know about her husband's infidelity, just as I had needed to learn about Rose's betrayal. I sent her the images and documentation that the investigator had provided, along with a brief explanation of how I had discovered the affair. I had searched for her on Facebook. Amy's response took days, but was emotional. After going through the evidence I had provided, she replied. We had several conversations in which she processed the information and tried to understand the extent of her husband's betrayal. During our conversations, Amy told me that she would likely end her marriage with her husband. The evidence of his affair was undeniable, and she felt that the trust in their relationship had been irreparably damaged. I didn't encourage or discourage her decision, understanding that she needed to process the information and make her own choices about her future. While I was in contact with Amy, I was also struggling with what to do about my own marriage. The evidence of Rose's affair was clear and undeniable, but confronting her about it would mean acknowledging that our marriage was effectively over. I spent several days trying to decide how to approach the situation. I eventually made the decision to confront Rose directly about what I had discovered. I presented her with the evidence from the investigation and asked her to explain her relationship with her coworker. Her reaction confirmed everything I had suspected and feared. Rose was shocked that her secret was out and that I had discovered the extent of her deception. She hadn't expected me to investigate her behavior, and the comprehensive nature of the evidence left her with no room to deny or minimize what had happened. She immediately began begging me not to end our marriage, promising that she would cut off all contact with her coworker and work to rebuild our relationship. She claimed that the affair had been a mistake she had ended, and this recent meeting was the guy trying to get her back into it. She claimed to still love me and want to preserve our marriage, but there was nothing she could do to undo the betrayal or restore the trust that had been destroyed. The evidence showed that her affair had been ongoing for months, involving deliberate deception and planning. It was an open secret in the company she works for. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment, but a sustained pattern of infidelity and dishonesty. I told Rose that our marriage was over and that I would be filing for divorce. The foundation of trust that had supported our relationship for years had been completely destroyed, and I couldn't see any way to rebuild it after such extensive deception. The legal proceedings began shortly after our confrontation. We hired separate attorneys and began the process of dissolving our marriage through the court system. The process was emotionally difficult but legally straightforward, as we didn't have children and had kept our finances relatively separate, except for a few things we got together. After several months of legal proceedings, our divorce was finalized. Since Rose had a successful career and earned a good income, there was no need for me to pay any settlement or alimony. We divided our shared assets and went our separate ways, each starting over with new lives. The aftermath of the divorce had interesting consequences at Rose's workplace. Her co-worker's marriage to Amy had also ended, and the affair that had once been secret became known to their colleagues. Rather than the relationship continuing, both Rose and her co-worker found themselves dealing with the professional and personal consequences of their actions. The man who had tried to provoke me at the work party had succeeded in revealing his own character and destroying his own marriage. His attempts to humiliate me had backfired spectacularly, leading to the exposure of his affair and the end of both of our marriages. Looking back on the entire situation, I can see that the work party was actually a turning point that revealed the truth about my marriage. If Rose's co-worker hadn't tried to provoke me that night, I might have remained unaware of their affair for much longer because my wife was good at covering things. His hostile behavior was what prompted me to investigate further and discover the deception. The experience taught me that sometimes the people who try to hurt you end up revealing more about themselves than they realize. The co-worker's attempts to provoke me came from his own guilt and resentment about the situation he had created. His behavior was a projection of his own character flaws rather than any legitimate criticism of me. I also learned that trusting your instincts about people's behavior is important. The co-worker's targeting of me at the party felt wrong and personal from the beginning, and that instinct turned out to be correct. His behavior wasn't random or coincidental. It was motivated by his involvement in betraying my marriage. The investigation revealed not just the affair, but also the extent of the deception that had been going on in my marriage. Rose had been living a double life, maintaining her relationship with me at home while conducting an affair with her coworker. The level of planning and dishonesty involved was staggering. Discovering the affair also revealed aspects of Rose's character that I hadn't fully understood before. Her ability to maintain such extensive deception while appearing loving and committed at home showed a capacity for compartmentalization and dishonesty that I found deeply disturbing. The relationship between Rose and her coworker didn't survive the exposure of their affair. Once their secret was revealed and they were both dealing with divorces and workplace consequences, the excitement and drama that had probably fueled their relationship disappeared. They were left dealing with the practical and emotional aftermath of their choices. Amy's decision to end her marriage was swift, decisive, and much messier once she saw the evidence of her husband's infidelity. She felt that the betrayal was too significant to overcome, and she didn't want to try to rebuild a relationship with someone who had been so deceptive. Her strength in handling the situation was admirable. The workplace dynamics that resulted from the affair's exposure created ongoing consequences for both Rose and her coworker. Office affairs often create complex professional situations, and their colleagues' awareness of what had happened affected their working relationships and reputations. For me, the end of my marriage was painful, but ultimately liberating. Living with someone who was capable of such extensive deception would have been emotionally damaging in the long term. Discovering the truth, though painful, allowed me to make informed decisions about my future. The quiet, non-confrontational approach I had always taken in social situations turned out to be beneficial during this crisis. My refusal to engage with a coworker's provocative behavior at the party prevented me from creating drama or embarrassing myself, while his behavior revealed his own character flaws. The investigation I commissioned was expensive, but proved to be worth every penny. Having clear, undeniable evidence of the affair made the divorce proceedings straightforward and prevented Rose from being able to deny or minimize what had happened. The documentation also helped Amy understand the full extent of her husband's betrayal, and she got way more compensation because she was earning less than her husband. If a coworker who tried to provoke me at the work party had an idea that his behavior would lead to the destruction of his own marriage and the exposure of his affair, he would probably have a rethink. His attempts to humiliate me backfired completely, revealing his own guilt and ultimately leading to consequences he never anticipated. Today, I'm rebuilding my life with a clearer understanding of the importance of trust and honesty in relationships. The experience taught me to pay attention to my instincts about people's behavior and to take action when something feels wrong. The work party that was supposed to celebrate Rose's career success instead became the beginning of the end for both of our marriages. Sometimes the truth has a way of revealing itself through the most unexpected circumstances, and the people who think they're clever enough to deceive others often end up exposing themselves instead.